that's just behind me. We are asking a question that the nation has been asking over the years. It's 62 years since the first woman of the Bahamas voted. We had the women's suffragette movement led by and founded by Mary Ingram, who brought in the founding members. And Mary Ingram, and just as we introduce our panelists, what I find interesting about Mary Ingram is she felt the loss for her husband. So her husband backed her up to mobilize the women so that they can win. Mary Ingram was not satisfied that her husband lost an election. And so today we have a foundation and an experience and a historical fact that when women unite and mobilize, what Mary Ingram was able to do was overturn the pillar of colonialism. If you believe that we can do it again, come on, give a clap offering to our panelists. Come on, if you believe it. And just before we start, so that our panelists can get an idea of what you think, let me see the hands of those in our audience who believe that the Bahamas is ready for a female prime minister. Let's look at the hands. Let's see. You don't think they're ready? Say it again.
I think it should happen, but I don't think the Bahamas is ready.
You don't think the Bahamas is ready? Let's see the hands that don't believe whether we are ready. Okay. Lisa Bostwick, herself a generational politician. Who else? Pedestra? Okay, most of us believe. I want to honor, let's calm down for a minute. We're going to begin. You wanted to say something, Madam Speaker?
Why do women make everybody else a success other than themselves?
Madam Butler, you are a politician? Was once a politics. Let's calm down for a minute for me, please. The show has begun. We're going on ZNS. Just let's hear our women of wisdom. So we have the Honorable Loretta Butler Turner. We know her history. We know the history of her family. Honorable Butler, are we ready? You ran in politics as a leader of a party. You did not succeed. Clearly, the people of the Bahamas was not ready. Do you believe we need a female prime minister? Are we ready for a female prime minister?
Thank you very much, Debbie. Good evening, ladies. Happy Women's Week and the significance of this day. I would like to begin by answering that question this way. The suffrage movement was probably the largest unification of women in the Bahamas over the last 50 plus years. I do not think that we have seen that type of unity since. While there has been progress on many facets, we have not unified to that level. We may be willing and wishing and hoping that we can have a female at the helm of this country. But from a very practical standpoint, when you look at both the PLP party and the FNM party, it is impossible today. There is not even a deputy female leader of either of these organizations. And in order, according to our constitution in the Bahamas, you become the prime minister when your party gains the majority of seats in the House of Assembly as the leader of that particular political organization. So there is a lot of work to be done. It's easier said than it done. We need to look at the population of the amount of women that sit around the table. We need to look at the amount of women that are participating. Are they being elevated to the position of leader of their parties? That is the fundamental question. And until you can have the leader of a significant political party in the Bahamas, we're not ready.
What's holding women back from ascending to the position of deputy and on to the top office of prime minister?
Oh, I have no idea, because for me, nothing held me back. I believe you've got to have tenacity, and you've sometimes got to take power.
But you talked about the women's suffrage movement as that vehicle that mobilized unity, which speaks to and suggests division today. Speak to that.
There was one woman, and you spoke about her, Miss Ingram. She took the lead, but she reached across political division. It was not just about the Black women of the Bahamas that came together, you know. And do you know the significance of the suffrage movement? It also gave power to the vote of every Black man in the Bahamas. We got universal suffrage. And so the women are the ones that unified. They started in lodges and in churches and in various organizations. They brought the men along, because prior to that, not every man could vote in the Bahamas.
That's right. Only the men with property, and we didn't have the property.
That's right. And so I think it's important for us to understand our history. I think even more importantly, we as Bahamians, we don't always understand our Constitution. And just going back to 2016, for example, when the majority of the opposition members supported Loretta Butler Turner to become leader of the opposition, there were so many Bahamians that didn't understand what happened because they don't understand our Constitution. So I think we need to also ensure that we teach constitutional or civics, if you will, in school, so that people will understand what it takes to make Miss Lines the leader of one of these political parties. Or Miss Komalafi, she was the leader of the DNA. And of course, Miss Farrington. The thing is, we have to understand the mechanisms to get to that position. And so it's not always elected, but our Constitution allowed us to do what we did in 2016.
I want to turn to former Senator. You are such a courageous woman. Just recently, you challenged the chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party, and you have been serving in the Progressive Liberal Party for many years. What is your response to that question of, are we ready for a female prime minister?
Well, good afternoon, first of all, to everyone. This is a very powerful room filled with powerful women. And so I want to thank the organizers for seeing fit to invite me. I feel out of place with these powerful women on stage. I'll do the best I can. But I join with Minister Butler Turner's sentiments. I understand that the country is in need. We are in crisis. And anytime you're in crisis, you need nurture. You need someone who is able to minister to hurt and wounds. And women are healing. That's what we do. And our country is in need of healing. So our readiness as a nation in terms of what we need, a female prime minister? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're overdue. Long overdue for what I feel women leadership brings to the table. We are problem solvers by design. That's what we do. And I often remind people that everything God made, he said it was good until he made man. And he said, by yourself, not good. And so woman was the answer to a deficiency. And I'm not insulting man. I'm not suggesting that men are inferior and women are superior. I'm saying to you, by divine design, we came to meet a need and to solve a problem. And when God was finished with woman, he said, good. He said, good. And so fundamentally, we are different. And in the various ages and stages of our country's development, the leaders that we have done their part. I think we are long overdue, not for a woman. I don't like to say that because I'm not of the mindset that any woman can do it. We need the right woman, the right temperament, the right character, right? The right level of understanding and wisdom and charisma and passion, honesty, integrity, know-how to understand that we are a small nation, but we can compete globally. When the right woman, the right women arise and emerge, we'll see a complete turnaround in this nation because women see things and have certain considerations that you wouldn't have as a man. And so I am asking the question that you ask us, to those of us in here who vote, who are part of the electorate. Because what I find that in politics, it's by demand. Numbers move people to make decisions. If we are truly ready, as we say, based on the hands, the majority of women in this room raise their hands. But I'm saying to you, because another thing I've learned is that men don't attack women openly, particularly in a political space. They don't do that. But what they would do is get another woman to attack for them, to speak for them, to malign for them, to be malicious for them, to appear as if the playing field has been leveled. So I'm asking the question to our audience that has been asked to us, are you ready for the right female prime minister to take our country to the next level? I've been ready, and I'll stay ready.
Well, I have to, and please, let's welcome the Honorable Glenys Hannah Martin, our longest serving. Come on, let's digress and stand and give her. Come on. Honor. Let's honor her. Come on, let's honor her. Yes. So I want to invite our oldest serving member of Parliament and great Minister of Education to join us. It really speaks volumes. She has been traveling and representing the Prime Minister of the Bahamas. She got off a plane and she came here to make sure that she was here with us. So, are you all enjoying it so far? Give our panelists a round of applause. Please have a seat. And I just, Minister Martin, just before you came, we had Senator Robin Lyons talking about it is time for a female. She has been ready. But you said a couple points there before I go on to the Honorable Minister, that you said we are problem solvers. How would we solve this problem with the egregious crime with our women, little boys and little girls?
I think one of the first things we do, and when I say we do, there are activists and powerful women in this room right now who have been speaking and moving and doing. But I think one of the things that we recognize is that we can't be focused on symptoms when we're talking about issues, particularly the issue of crime and deviance, right? To deal with a perpetrator of a crime is still symptomatic. because that is one person that you've dealt with. But there are social ills and there are national issues that are perpetuating these kinds of what I call endemics, right? And so if we are just dealing with or being responsive to when an individual commits such a heinous act, we will always be responding. But when you look at the criminal, when you look oftentimes at the victim, there are stories, right? There were signs, there was a history that oftentimes we've missed. Take young Adriel Moxie, for instance. There were signs, there were instances where we as a country, the system, may have been able to save her, may have been able to rescue her. Are we looking at what the mechanisms are that are in place to deal with people that need the help that they need? Mental health issues are on the rise in this country. We still don't have the capacity to properly deal with persons. We are seeing a growing number of vagrants and vagabonds on the streets. We are seeing growing numbers of persons who simply cannot handle all of the pressures of life. But as a country, how are we now responding? We have to try to see if we could firm up and shore up all of the various entities that are able to deal with our children. So even from a standpoint of our teachers and our guidance counselors, reinforcing their training to make sure that they know the telltale signs of abuse. Not every child is going to be brave enough to talk. But what have you seen? What have you noticed, right? Making sure that we have mandatory reporting. And after we've reported, what do we do? There's so many times when children are taken into the custody of the government as ward of the state, and we don't have the capacity to keep them. We don't have the spacing. We don't have the staffing. We don't have the facilities. And so oftentimes what happens? They're placed right back in the environments that they came out of. So when we lock someone up for such an egregious act, I understand that. I stand with that. But what are we doing even now? And this is heartbreaking to say, but for the countless amounts of Adriels that go home at night to places that are horrific for them. And in a country such as ours, in such a small population, we have to take on more collective responsibility to be our brothers and sisters keepers once again. That we don't mind our own business 6 months of the year and stay out of other people's business the other 6 months. It's time for us to be nosy for the right reasons again. Because you see children come to school, they look disheveled, neglected, they don't smell right. Those are signs that something is not right. And so what women would do as leaders, what women would do as problem solvers is look at this situation holistically. And first and foremost, put the mechanisms in place so that if we are trying to save a child, a man, a woman, a boy, a girl, we have some place that they can go. We have provisions, we have resources that have been earmarked for this kind of intervention. Because it is one thing to know a problem. It is another thing to have a system in place that we're able to respond and respond properly.
Well, I want to come back to this issue as we move to the minister, because I know her time is constrained, and I want to welcome you because the minister and the Ministry of Social Services is looking at the root cause of the problem as family. The nuclear family, if you don't get to the root and always look at the fruit, you're not going to get sustained success. And one of the things that I truly admire with what is happening within the ministries now is the Honorable Glenys Hannah Martin and the Ministry of Social Services are partnering on intervention. And of course, social services is doing a great job, but it is becoming overwhelmed with the socioeconomic decay. And I believe from the deep bench of history, Minister, could you, from your perspective, I'm coming back to do you think we are ready? But you're in the schools. You see the profile of children and families. How do you describe where we are today compared when you still entered the world of politics?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for being late. I wish to recognize my colleague, brother, and Mrs. Laroda, all of the senior public officers who are here present, members of this panel, and all who've come to celebrate that special day in 1962 when women voted for the first time. I've been reflecting on this question very recently, quite a bit, particularly in light of the recent events with the little girl and also with the grandmother. But I've been looking around more globally at what's been happening in the Bahamas, and truly, I'm very concerned about the level of social deterioration we've seen in general. I don't know to what extent the pandemic, when everyone was in isolation, people didn't have money. It was a struggle just to get food. I know there was a food program, but for many, it was a challenge to sustain themselves without any income. Nobody was working, everything was shut down. Children were isolated, not socializing. All of these things are very necessary to human existence and to good mental health. So a lot of research has been done on the impact of the pandemic. And I think more needs to happen in the Bahamas to see if there is a causal connection between those events and that phenomenon and what we are seeing today. But I saw something in the papers today from Public Hospital Authority where the managing director said, we are a very sick country. And she was talking about the state of physical health. It seems to me that we have, across the board, we have had levels of deterioration, including our physical health, our mental health, the way in which the economy is serving our people. A lot of people feel that they are basically struggling. The cost of living is a struggle. People are out of work. There are a lot of stresses and distresses that people are experiencing. And I think all of this has come to a sort of toxic momentum in what is happening, because we're seeing things that almost back to back that are just unimaginable and just seem out of rhythm to who we are and what we are. So I think that we have to really begin to reflect on the social health of our people, on the stresses that people face, and to see how we can more effectively cause for a higher quality of living. And as it relates to our children in particular, who are the products or the children of these adults who are facing all of these different things. You know, a lot of people are angry, high levels of violence. I didn't mention that we are having unprecedented levels of violence and serious violence, sometimes between siblings, relatives, strangers. I mean, it's what we're seeing is just really something that is telling us that we have to bring strong analytical skills to appreciating what is happening in this Bahamas. And I believe it may be happening everywhere. It may not just be us. But of course, our immediate concern is ourselves. On the issue of children, they're the products of these adults who are facing all of these issues. They themselves were in the pandemic. They suffered learning loss. They were isolated. A lot of them come from very dysfunctional scenarios. And they come to the school, and really, schools are more and more and more being required. Teachers, guidance counselors, principals, administrators, security officers are being called upon more and more and more and more to fill deficits. That's not really primarily what you would expect them to have to deal with. But we have told ourselves we have to do what we have to do. After the death of Adriel Moxie, obviously everybody is revisiting these circumstances and seeing what can happen. And the Ministry of Education is doing that also. We're looking at what happened here, what should have happened, what should not have happened, whatever the issues are. And it's not, a lot of finger pointing came out of that. And really, truthfully, it speaks more to the collective deterioration, because there was a time that probably could not have happened if there was a child wandering around in distress or whatever it was. So I think, to answer your question, I think that what we're seeing today is a 360-degree turn from what we knew and understood who we were. And it's a number of stresses that are straining the fabric. And the question is, what is the support that's needed? And how do we, as policymakers, bring about policies that alleviate these pressures or create new avenues for a more healthy reality that people are living? But when you're dealing with a vulnerable society or community like children, this is a special community. It's very, very special. And so this must give us all pause, because we saw, even from our circumstances, that, it was a very difficult situation.
What would you say is the first 1-2 step to improve the quality of life?
The first one?
1 or 2 steps to improve the quality of life. We have an increase in the working poor, and you talked about the impact it's having on our health and on our finances.
Yes. Well, I think that it requires us looking at this economy, and in particular the issue of cost of living, access to food, and how we are able to cause for more people to access healthier food. What we're doing in my constituency, and it's the work in its early beginning, we are starting a cooperative in Angliston, and that cooperative will cause for the reduction in cost of healthy foods, not junk or stuff like you can just get in the food store, and people are surviving on a minimum wage, but fresh fruits and vegetables and grains and meats and fish and that type of thing. And we've been meeting with the Department of Cooperatives. So in that community, we are beginning that initiative, but that's a one-off thing. Doesn't have the across-the-board effect that you'd like to see. And so I think really we have to see, how do we deal with the issue of cost of living? We have to educate people on healthy eating and healthy living. And we have to help people understand how to manage stress and anger and on all of these things. But this is a really complicated, difficult, far gone situation. It's not the point of no return, but it requires really very focused, intentional policies and collective effort and work in the institutions like the schools, the Ministry of Education, Public Health Hospital Authority, and Ministry of Social Services. Until we see a more stable social environment, we have to work 1,000 times harder.
Are we ready for a female prime minister?
The thing is, when you say, are we ready? I'm trying to understand the meaning of that question. Tell me what you're asking so I can answer.
Yeah. We had a little survey just before you came. How many in the room want and believe that the country is ready to support the candidacy of a female prime minister?
Okay, that's a different question.
Yes.
Because women ready long time. Now, let me tell ya. What? Now, that ain't the question.
But I want to challenge you that. No, but I want to challenge, no. Yeah, but I want to challenge you. You say women ready long time, but the women don't vote for the women when they go up.
Well, I am proud that in the constituency of Angliston, women have consistently gone to the polls, and men, and they've supported women candidates. And those of us who have been elected, women have been in the mix there. Women have.
But why is the office of prime minister so elusive?
In my view, well, first of all, we do have issues about how women are viewed. Okay, we know those stereotypical cultural issues. But I think the real issue is, for me, it's not that. The issue is how political parties view women, particularly major political parties, how they view women, how they cause for women to be more substantively involved in the political process. For example, we have how many women? You have 7? 7 in Parliament. Out of how many? I think it might have been 7 or 8 candidates, maybe a couple more, out of 39. And so we need more women candidates. We need to change the landscape about how women are viewed in this game, if you want to call it a game, how we participate in this scenario. Because once we're seen as viable, not as some eccentric addition to a thing, but as real players in the political arena, I think that you will begin to see the shift. The political parties have to make the first move to endorse, embrace, and show the nation that women have a place and a space in the political realm. And I know in the PLP, the Prime Minister promised in the next election 30% of our candidates will be women. So we are looking forward to that. You run it? 30%.
No running for me. All right, wonderful. That's
Thank you.
yeah. Then you turn the chest right on me just like that. That's a veteran.
Hold on.
That's a veteran.
Now. What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, no. So, but it's amazing that you should say that. But for a very long time, for many years, I've been invited to be a part of the political landscape, but I don't think that's my purpose. I have some other things. I'm here to help build nation, but
You'll see.
in another way with you all. All righty. So we have Ms. Farrington. What say you? Are we ready?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And I say a resounding yes. One only needs to look directly in front of me at the table of ladies that sit directly in front of me to understand that these are the women that are actually running the government.
Yes.
And my view is any one of them are capable of running the machinery of government. With respect to the prime ministership, first of all, we have to appreciate what is the job of the prime minister. He or she is the one that is first among equal in the cabinet, the one that is responsible for the coordination of policies in the government. And I can tell you, sitting in this room and outside of this room, there are many women who are well-trained, they're ready, they are able, and all we are saying is send us. Secondly, one of the reasons I think perhaps the most important reason why we have not yet realized a female prime minister in the Bahamas, like all of our Caribbean nation sisters who have tried it and have been very successful at it, is the fact that I think the challenge is the system of government. And I'll give you an example. I feel that move away from party politics, and if we were to vote single-handedly for a prime minister, all things being equal, we will see a very great deal amount of females being elected in that post. But the system of government we have, the Westminster system, requires us to vote, as Madam Butler said, for the person of the party that commands the majority. So if I'm a member of the Progressive Liberal Party or the Free National Movement, when I'm going to cast my votes, I have to consider the fact that if I want my government to become the government of the Bahamas, I have that restraint, I have that consideration that I have to vote for a candidate so that my party can get the majority of candidate. So I feel we need to now look moving forward. I see that we have a lot of our words in our team. We need a woman that will empower. A lot of us want to get into politics because we are intoxicated with power. But the question to be asked is, why do you want to get into politics? And if the answer to that question is not to empower our citizens, to make the lives of ordinary Bahamians better, I'll tell you, like they say on the island, sit down. Because governance and politics is about people. And if you do not have people skills, you're missing a vital tool. Second, I also like to think that as women, we need to be resolute that, you know, the suffrage, they had their cause. They articulated that. They know what they wanted. They wanted the right to vote. And they were intentional. They were resolute that this is what we want. So if we want a female prime minister, we have to be resolute that this is what we want. And we have to be intentional in that. I want to use the word reskill. We are living in changing times, which require us as women to change the mechanism by which we seek to come to the forefront. It means then we have to build consensus. We have to be women, you know, the same thing for men, right? We have to be people who are concerned about the plight of the poor man, the ordinary man. We cannot be women who are prepared to come into this room, talk about circumstances, and not be concerned that missing from this room are the ordinary Bahamian women. The gap between the have and the have-nots is deepening, it's widening. I heard the minister say it's a complex problem, but we cannot all just be committed to coming and talking. What we need now in this dispensation, I want to add a new word, a new R word to the team. We need Renaissance woman. We need a Renaissance woman, a woman who's going to come with fresh ideas. And women, we know how to deal with problems, as Ms. Lyons said. We need a woman that's going to be prepared, take off their shoes, take off our pearls, go into those inner cities, find out what is happening with our young women. What is happening with them? Why do we have such a high percentage of single parentage? What is going on? The problem is we are intoxicated with power, but we don't want to do the hard work. And I finally want to end that by saying, just look at this panel. Very capable women sitting here who, if given the chance, I am absolutely certain that we can, I for one, totally endorse the woman prime minister. Having served in the cabinet of the Bahamas most of my life, having worked in the Senate and the House of Assembly, having support all of these ladies here in some way or form, listen, we're ready now.
Explain what you mean, served in the cabinet.
Well, I serve in the cabinet office. I'm very pleased when I talk about my history. I tell them I am a child of the public service. I came up the ranks from a clerk and worked my way through the public service. And I was glad that that happened to me, because sometimes when we're coming into service, we don't have the benefit of coming from bottom up. And so when we come, we miss a whole set of hard, struggling clerks and senior clerks. These people are the ones that teach you the way. This is why you know the government service. So I would have served in the cabinet office for most of my public service career. So that is what I mean when I say I would have worked. And let me please, before I end, I do believe in order. I do see my permanent secretary here, Ms. Prenell King-Rowe. It's women like her who train other women. I have Miss Barnaby. I'm going to get in trouble. Of course, who I serve with at the Attorney General's office, and so many of the women there. So yes, we are ready, just waiting our turn. Not waiting, we must kick the door down.
There are a lot of things, and we're coming back to all the panelists in a minute. The Honorable Glenys Hannon Martin has to leave, and if it's okay, Ms. Kamalafi, let me give you the last moment, final words, and allow her to leave, and we'll come back to you, ma'am.
Final word?
Final word.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, I want to apologize and having to come in and leave so quickly. They're messaging me now and saying, "Where are you?" I think that God was so generous to this country. He gave us so many gifted, talented people. Our children are so amazing and so talented and so gifted. Our athletes, our intellects, our creatives. He gave us a beautiful country. A little challenge now with climate change. Has put a new span in the works for us. But we have been given such a gift. And I believe that as a people, we need to begin to analyze and appreciate that gift, which includes our people, the most precious resource, not a ragged no other things, to appreciate it and to now begin to put in place all of the necessary policies that begin to exploit and to tap into these incredible resources that makes up who we are. Amongst those incredible resources are our women, because our women head families. Sometimes they do it single-handedly. They raise children. They rise up in all areas of life, despite all of the challenges, all of the barriers that they face. They still rise up and they come forward and they help to build a great country. So I think that, you know, I would just like to see a country that is less judgmental of itself and more understanding of who we are with greater empathy and eyes of love about who we are as a people, and take that out of that toxicity out, and let us, and I can tell you the big part of that toxicity is politics. I feel this very strongly. I don't want to introduce politics here, but that's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. You know, and it dominates the sound waves and the landscape, and it's distracting and detracting from the central purpose, which is for us to build this little country of ours. So, but politics is politics everywhere. In America, they can't pass nothing because of the strong division that they have there. So, you know, but it is what it is. But we have to more and more embrace each other as a people and begin to do what is necessary to nurture and to encourage and to stimulate each other in our quest as we move forward. It's a lot of generalities, and I don't want to get into the specifics because it's the politics of things in a lot of ways. But I do believe that we are so gifted in this nation, and I think that we've become a little ungrateful, and we've taken a lot of things for granted, and we have done even worse than that. We have I don't know, you know, assaulted. Someone said assaulted. Yes, assaulted. Thank you. That's a very good word, Madam Speaker. Assaulted, and I don't know what or why or how we've gotten here, but we have to find a way. We can do it. We have the reins of our own nation state, and we can do it. So that's what I would say. I'm looking forward to a new day in this country where we will begin to really capitalize on this incredible gift that God has given us. I don't see where it's happening anywhere else. God was very generous with us. And I just want to see us to be able to really refine it and become and position ourselves as tall, strong, positive, healthy people, a healthy people. That's my 5 cents.
We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We allow you to leave.
Thank you.
And I think that we are blessed to have some of the best, compassionate political leaders on all sides of the political divide. And we must honor our oldest serving elected member. Longest, not the old.
Violence.
But she don't look that old. The longest serving. Come on, give her a round of applause. You know, the Minister of Education said something that is very key. Said it's all toxicity coming from politics.
Yes.
And even as we talk to Ms. Kamalafi, she was in the Progressive Liberal Party. She moved into the DNA. She is here with the Free National Movement. But the irony of it all, men with PLP and FNM background can be partners. Am I right? Am I right? What is this that we can't speak to one another because we are of a different political persuasion, and respect those people who have changes in mind of where they will serve. So, Ms. Kamalafi, as a matter of fact, your mother is a stalwart foundation. You grew up in the PLD. Staunch. Where's she?
She's over there.
Where's Kamalafi, mommy? Come here. Come here, Miss Jenny. Come. You know, we're talking about families. We're talking about families. Listen, there's something special that is right here. We have Loretta Butler Turner, whose family, generational. We have to see the greatness that we have. As the minister said, sometimes we look at all the negative. We don't look at all the great things. I don't know, Robin Lyons, your family been in politics? They deep PLD. But Ms. Kamalafi, we honor you here today.
Thank you.
And you have your experience with changing over and sides. How would you describe, what is your experience with the toxicity of politics and politricks?
We have all day. I can tell you, Dr. Bartlett, that this journey, and particularly my journey specifically, is not for the faint of heart. And when I started several years ago, I never thought my journey would take me to where I am now. I didn't know that the road would be this rough. And all I knew was that I had a heart to serve, and I wanted to serve my country. But I face many challenges, many roadblocks. And there are things that I have to live with, and there are things that you have to stand up to and confront. You asked the question, are we ready for a female prime minister? There was never a doubt in my mind that we were ready for a female prime minister. I think from 1962, when we got the franchise, we were ready. I think over the decades where we've had several women who have run for office, incredible women, qualified women, we were ready for a female prime minister. Of course, there are challenges that we face, and we have to be real about those challenges. And I think I can speak to a lot of those even from my personal experience. Ms. Butler Turner alluded to it in her intro, and that is the fact that a lot of persons do not understand the Constitution, as well as the way our political parties operate. If you're going to advance anywhere in politics, you have to be involved in a political party. We run a two-party system. I decided to challenge the system. There is a price for challenging the system, right? Persons, you mentioned it. I was born in the Progressive Liberal Party, the oldest party of note in this country. My mother still is, staunch, founding member of the youth arm of the Progressive Liberal Party. Where she went, her and her 5 children went. She had a husband, we have a father. My father was in the home, but my mother never left her children. And so we were always around politics. At the time when I was growing up, I didn't know that I was around important people. I just knew I was with my mother, and she was doing what she was doing. And she would take us around politics, and I never had a desire to be a politician. I always wanted to be like her. She was working in banking. I wanted to be a banker, so I started off in that vein. But there was a draw, and there was a pull. And then I realized I had to get involved in politics if I was going to make that change. She encouraged me to get involved with the women's arm of the political party. I didn't want to. They were older women. They were older than I were. But I got there, and I felt something. I felt very strong there, and I felt I can make a contribution there. And I would rise to become the chairman of the particular arm of the women's branch of the Progressive Liberal Party. And I did that even though I understood that what I had to offer and what I wanted to offer, I didn't think that the party was ready for it because what I was feeling. And unfortunately, that was proven to be true. And it's not the party itself, it's just that where we are as a nation, going back to this question of do we want a female leader? And I never had the intentions of being a leader or the leader. But I was becoming increasingly concerned about where we were in the country and the direction that we were headed in. And so I made a decision of my own. And like I said, I kicked against the system. In the political parties, if you're not very active, if you're not involved, then there's no trajectory for you to climb up. Persons say, okay, do we need a female leader? Yes, we do. Will we have it? Because of that toxicity you speak about, a lot of persons stray away from it. I deal with toxicity every day, daily. And not only has it come upon me, but my husband is being drawn into it. My family, my mother, sometimes my sister, members of my family who did not choose to be a part of politics. Every day, if I put an article out, if I write a letter to the editor, I can almost be assured of an attack. And if you're going to get to the point in these political parties where we have a woman who climbs to the top, and we've seen 2 strong women already do it within the established political parties. We've seen Ms. Butler Turner, we've seen Ms. Hannah Martin. When we look at the persons around the world and in the region, this is not an overnight process. This takes time. If we look at Mia Mottley, it took almost 20, 30 years to climb to where she is. If we look at Angela Merkel in Germany, it took them 20, 30 years to climb to where they are. Margaret Thatcher in the United Kingdom. And they would have had to have gone through all those processes and deal with challenges. You also have financial challenges. Margaret Thatcher's husband was rich. When I was the leader of the DNA, we had many women who put themselves forward to run. And a lot of them started off because they had a heart and they wanted to run. But reality sets in. They can't feed those children. I had a potential candidate, she sat right before me. She said, Ms. Komalafe, I cannot run. I come out there every day, I campaign, I knock on doors, but I cannot feed my child. And if you're going to take this road and take this journey, you have to understand sacrifices have to be made and will be made. But when I started this journey, I said to the Lord, I could run for office and I can try and save a nation, but I cannot lose my family in the process. You cannot lose. You have to remember what is important. And my mother always stressed that with me, your family comes first. I cannot give to my children less what she has given to me. A lot of women do not have the privilege that I have to, because I have a strong village. If I can't pick up my children, my husband will pick them up. And if he can't pick them up, my mother will, or my father will, or one of my siblings. Right now I'm sitting here and I just got the message my sister will be picking up my children. You need a village, but not every woman has that. You need a village who can help you raise your home and take care of your home, because in this thankless job, with all the toxicity, when it's all said and done, your family is all you have. That is all you have. That is the foundation of everything, right? So you have that. You have the financial challenges and the hurdles. I had to run an election campaign, not just for myself. I had to run an election campaign for all the other candidates too. A lot of them who were on the ticket. Many persons who want to serve in this country do not have the money to do so. They do not have the finances. I spent 6 figures of my own money. When I first ran for office with the DNA in 2017, I had several women, professional women, who contributed to my campaign. $500 there, $500 there, but it goes a long way, but it's not enough. It's a drop in the bucket. In 2021, leading a party and trying to take that party to a national campaign, I got a contribution from another professional woman, $5,000. Every other thing, and I sat with men. And this is the next thing we have to understand, because you have to create that balance. As a woman, you must maintain your dignity and your integrity. Men sit in a room and they look out for one another. The brotherhood is strong. They come knowing that they're supposed to lead. We question whether we should lead. They come knowing they're supposed to lead, and they look out for one another. The brotherhood is strong. I've sat in a room with men where some of the women have said, well, give us a safe seat. I say, well, why should you get a safe seat? You should work just the way we have to work. And persons who typically get a safe seat, they have money. They have funding. And herein lies another problem, because the way our politics has been going over the last 5 election cycles, one party in, one party out, and there's a sweep or there's a wave. A woman who was in a non-safe seat, when you have 4 MPs left or 8 MPs left, it is hard for her to be able to ascend to leadership because she's out. She didn't get the safe seat that the man got. So the likelihood is that he's going to be first in line for the leadership post. So you have 4 left in a tsunami or 10 left in a wave, and there's no women there, as is the case now with the Free National Movement. There's no woman there. The likelihood is, of the 10 that are left, one of them are going to become the leader. So I've been on multiple panels talking about this over and over again. If we're going to be serious about a woman climbing in these political parties, then we need to put structural systems in place for that to happen. She needs that village. She needs that funding, because as women, we're not as organized as men. As I said, their fraternity is strong. They learn it from young. I see it now even with my own son. Their fraternity is strong, ours is not. Their connections are strong, ours is not. And so if we are going to do that, we have to continue platforms like these where we are able to create linkages for women, where they have access to a village, access to funding, and the ability to be able to be mentored within the context of leadership so that they can rise up the ranks in these political parties.
Fantastic.
Yes, I do endorse. I do endorse what Mrs. Komalafe and other panelists, but I think sitting here, it would be remiss of me as an ordained evangelist not to make this point. And I always tell people, God sets up and God pulls down. God is the one that sets up leaders. He has a set time. And so we as women have to believe that our time is now, that despite any imperfection we may have, if God has determined that a woman should lead this country, we will. He will make the provision. He will cause this stuff. Because remember now, the heart of a man is in the hands of God. If we are sincere and we're diligent, and I always encourage women, listen, let us prepare ourselves. Remember, David was in the fields. Okay, he wasn't the one chosen, but he equipped himself. So in this hour as women and as head of the chair of the advisory council, I want to challenge every woman in this room, begin to prepare, do the work, qualify yourself. Listen, I believe in divine intervention. I want to just share briefly, and I know Ms. Lyons, I hope you don't mind me sharing it, just briefly. I recall being in prayer with Senator Lyons. We would normally get together and pray. And she had no intentions of coming into public life. But I recall in that prayer, the Holy Spirit said to me, you're going into public life. I got up from that prayer and approached and said, Lyons, get ready, you're going into public life. She said, who, me? But 3 weeks, I believe, or less, that call came and she answered the call. And I'm just sharing this to encourage women. Don't lose heart. We are ready. And we have to have that in our minds. We are ready and our time is at hand, and we leave the rest to the Almighty God.
Thank you all. Let's give a round of applause. We're going to just take a quick break and be right back. All right? No break, no break. We're just doing that for TV. And we'll start. Is Benjamin still here? Sherry Benjamin. Sherry Benjamin, come here. We're going to close, and we're going to have 2 or 3 questions ready for you all. Anybody, let me see if anybody have questions, because we're going to wrap it up now. Any questions? Let me see ahead of time, and we're out of here. No questions. Okay, let's wrap it up. Comment is fine. Let's get a comment. Let's just do it just very briefly. Each one closing. I'll control the mic. Closing comments, 1 minute from our panelists. All right, we're ready? Make your way here so we can just sit right there so it won't be far. And then we'll close out. Just give us 10 more minutes. We just want to do the vote of thanks, final comments, and we're out of here, okay? As we come back, you all just clap. I'm going to ask you to clap, and so we can say welcome back, and we have the final comments. But come, Ms. Sherry. The reason why, when we are talking about history, the labor movement was very, very critical in majority rule. And here's the president of the BCPOU. I'm just curious. Come on, give them a round of applause. Just make one little statement I can ask you to how you see. Are we ready for female prime minister? Okay? So you sit right there until I set her up. But yes. Okay, we ready? Let's go, count me down. This is really business. Count me down, yeah. I'm sure you'll agree this has been extremely enlightening. We can see the power, the vision, the passion that our panelists have. We're in our final moments. And I believe what we should do is just take a moment to talk about how we are going to minimize, dilute the toxicity that each of you spoke about in your own way. Just, I'm going to start with, you have been such a phenomenal inspiration in this country, Loretta Butler Turner. And you have gone through, as Ms. Komalafi or Ms. Lyons, Ms. Farrington got a different kind of toxicity, but you have been on the front line. What would you say are the key 1 or 2 principles that we ought to consider to, as we said earlier, mobilize unity of the women within the construct with which you said, knowing our Constitution? What do you say?
I believe one of the things that we can begin with as a country, and I don't think it's a panacea for everything, but I believe that we have got to start looking more long-term. We've got to have a plan that we can not only put forth to the people, but to demonstrate to them that this is in the best interest of our country. And if we can get bipartisan buy-in to that, the National Development Plan, which we are touting, I think is a huge step forward, because there's so much uncertainty with regards to the cyclical cycles of elections. And so in terms of the way the Chinese planned for a very long time, I think there are some very valuable lessons that we can take away from that. And we sort of reach across the boundaries, as we are here today. I mean, we're here, an entire mixture of celebrating everything that is, great. As we sit here, this was not just about the PLPs or the FNMs. This went right back to the suffragettes. Nobody questioned their political affiliation. So once there is a national plan that people can identify with, I think we can start to move people all in that direction.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lyons.
One of the things I think, just piggybacking on what Minister said, we can't be, when I was younger, I'm still young, I'm the youngest up here, I want to say that strongly, but when I was younger and I realized that I had an interest in leadership, I understood how important mentorship was. And I remember approaching a seasoned leader, and she said to me, and I'd never forget this, she said, "You don't train someone to take your job." So I think one of the things that we have to do is recognize that all of our experiences in its totality are meant to be passed on. We are meant to take and pay it forward. Whatever may be our level of wisdom, our level of intellect, our level of influence, our level, whatever it is that you think you have of value, we don't get very far when we hoard what God has given us. When we pass it on, when we are willing, and this is the point I want to make, when we are willing to help a woman to be a better woman than you. That's the key. That's the key. And so when I decided that I was going to not be afraid to expose the fact that God has made me a leader, and not say it because I'm arrogant, say it because I know who I am, and to confront and challenge anyone who would try to make me question the direction that God has set me for. And I want people to understand, oftentimes the test is not where you will end up, it's not the destination. First, you are tested on whether or not, despite the odds, you are willing to pack your bags and make the journey. God said to Abraham, "Go to a land that I will show you." He didn't see it yet. He said, "I'm going to show you though, but pack up everything and just be willing to go." I'm at a place now where I'm willing to go, and I'm willing to do that, even if it's not me. That's where I had to come in my resolve, that I know that this country needs strong, formidable female leadership. It does. We are overdue for it. And what I have made sure is that it doesn't have to be me. That I won't hold back because it's not me. That I will give 100% of what I am and what I bring to her, whoever she may be. When she presents herself, I ask you in this room, if you don't get recognized, if they don't call your name, if you don't get a plaque or a trophy or some accolade, are you still willing to give her all of who you are? Because at the end of the day, really and truly, I'm not for myself, I'm for the cause. I'm for the cause. And so if we in this room decide that I'm going to give it 100% for the destination that we are headed toward, and that is to see our nation rise once more, then whether it's you or you or you or her, 100%, I'm all in.
Thank you. Just 2 minutes. We have to wrap it up. I know it's a little tight, but Ms. Kamalafi and then Ms. Farrington.
Yes, Dr. Bartlett, to answer your question on how to remove the toxicity from our politics, I think it's absolutely necessary because we need to have respect for one another. Our politics today is no more about policies or positions or making lives better, but it is about pulling one another down and tearing one another down. And as you can see, that has spilled over into our society, and it is directly contributing to the social deterioration that we are experiencing. If we
Hold on, you're saying that politicians are contributing?
Politicians and their operatives, and the operatives are contributing to the social deterioration that we are experiencing today. Because if you look to your elders and your leaders, and that was something you talked about our color before, that was one thing our color had, respect for our elders and our leaders. And if you look at your elders and your leaders, and they are behaving like animals in the jungle, and there's not respect for person and people and who they are, just dignity, then those who are coming up in society, they take their cue from that. And the level of anarchy that we are experiencing and the lack of respect for human life and for person's dignity is directly linked to that. Because we learn mostly by what we see, not necessarily. My mother always used to tell us, don't do what I, she always used to say, don't do what I do, right? Do what I say, right? And when we are listening to, when we see that our leaders in society, people are listening to what they're saying, but it is not reflecting in their actions. You see? And so the leaders of these political parties, and I say this being on the receiving end, because as a leader, I always make it my mandate to deal with your policy and your mandate, not your person, and not the person who's connected to you, your spouse or your children. But the leaders in these parties, and I'm talking from the head down, they must speak and set the tone within these political parties if we are to get the toxicity out of the parties. And it's not just in politics, it's also in religion. And they are the two main pillars of our society. If we get that toxicity out of there, and if we go back to the old landmark and strengthen the things that remain, then we will start to see a reversal in our society.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes.
Thank you. To get the toxicity out, I'm going to return right back to the word and a team from the team. We have to be resolute. We have to be intentional. We must stop talking the talk. We must simply walk the walk. In coming here today, I was intentional that I was going to reach across the political divide. And I don't know if Ms. Wells is still there, Charlotte Wells, but I was determined from the Coalition of Independents that she would be in this room, because building a nation requires all hands on deck. Oh, there she is, Charlotte. Stand for me, please. Yeah, it requires, yeah. We like to say, Debbie, that corruption is bad for a nation, but equally damaging to the nation is the nation's inability to tap into its collective skills and talents of its citizens. And every time the Lord allows us to sit in a position, we must be ensured that we are handling and dealing with God's people correctly and making sure that all of God's people have equal opportunity.
Fantastic. We're going to close now with a brief comment, and you don't want to comment anymore? You can't follow that. She changed her mind. They said it all. Okay. Well, listen, as we close and the vote of thanks, you know, when we talk, you just talked, Ms. Kamalafi and Ms. Farrington, you really were talking about integrity. Integrity is what you say and what you do is one. And you also talked about what your mother said, because people hear with their eyes. If we say something and we see something else. But the labor movement represented that integrity, where Sir Randall Fox had a blank check. There are political leaders who in both sides of the political divide, who are integrous, but we have overshadowing. And I just wanted to get a quick thought in terms of your position as a union leader, seeing how we behave towards one another as women. Your take, are we ready?
Good evening, everyone. Afternoon, sorry. I believe that as women, we are our worst enemy. We are our own worst enemy. We don't support each other. Like many of your panelists have said, we tend to tear each other down. I think we need to retool the minds of our young ladies to let them know that it is good to be a woman, and it is a good thing to be a woman leader. And until we retool and retrench the minds of our women, we're not going to be in a place where we can see a woman leader. But are we ready? We need to get ready. If we're not ready, we need to get ready because there are more of us than them. And so we can make it happen.
Come on, give a round of applause to all of our panelists, all of the participants.
The Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting is partnering with the Bahamas Christian Council to help build stronger Bahamian families.
I believe that our ultimate experience in living begins with God and family.
Our purpose is to facilitate, guide, inspire, and equip you to have a better life.
And a strong family foundation begins with each of us trying to become better individuals.
Let's unite for a stronger Bahamas.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, the heartbeat of the nation, leading Bahamians from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment.
Our marine resources were once considered inexhaustible. Conch and reef fish like grouper were abundant everywhere, and it seemed as if the lobster catch would rise forever. But today, there is a downward trend that affects everyone. Researchers say we can reverse the trend by protecting more marine habitats. And the good news is that most Bahamians strongly support efforts to halt further decline. Tripling the size of our network of marine parks will mean more fish and conch for everyone, now and for the future, as well as more recreational and ecotourism opportunities. Today, only 10% of our waters are protected. Surveys show that most Bahamians consider protection of our marine environment to be a top national priority. More protection means more benefits for everyone, now and in the future. It's a win-win-win strategy for the economy, for Bahamians, and for nature. Protect our sea, protect our way of life, protect the Bahamas. See the future. Visit Bahamas Protected on Facebook to learn more about marine protected areas.
At the Eco Camp, there were a variety of indoor activities. These activities were hands-on, they were entertaining, and they were fun. They helped to bring home some of the ideas that the kids were learning in the field.
I learned about different corals, different fishes, different places in the forest, different bushes, and it was really fun.
I learned a lot of plants, which I didn't know before, and how you can use them, and a lot of how you can help the environment, new ways how to help it, which makes me happy because I want to keep our earth as nice as possible.
Yeah, we took the kids camping, or they took us camping. I'm not quite sure which way around it was. They had a great time. And if they enjoyed it half as much as I think we as leaders enjoyed it, then it was very successful. What was interesting, we had a group of children, a cross-section, both age-wise and probably from background. They all grouped in together, pulled together, and worked as a team. They saw things they'd never seen before, some of them. They saw the stars, they saw the trees. They went looking for crabs, but didn't see any. They saw hogs. I think they were great kids, and I was very impressed.